Hi everyone, I'm so happy that you're here to join me for the Way of the Animal podcast. Welcome back, Alastair. Today's podcast I thought about talking about resistance, and this came up because at the weekend I had very, very painful sinuses, extremely painful, and I decided to try a meditation to help me relax. And there was actually one for pain, so I thought, oh, great. And basically the meditation pointed out that I was resisting the pain, and therefore I was making it worse.
Okay.
And it was a very interesting concept to me because I hadn't thought about that I was resisting the pain, but I think I was like holding and not letting anything change in that area because I didn't want it to get any worse. And I think in doing all that sort of, oh, it's really sore there, sort of clenching and just being in that state of, oh, that's really sore there, I was almost resisting the pain's flow.
Yeah, therefore, so you weren't letting it move, you were holding it stationary.
Yeah, because I didn't want it to get any worse.
Okay, I was confused about the resisting the pain.
Yeah, as I said, it is a weird concept when you think about it, but actually, if you think about it, it's quite a common thing to do if you have pain.
Yes.
There's that sort of, resistance to it instead of breathing into the pain and going, okay, I have pain, let the pain flow, and then, know that it's going to get better.
I've heard that before, the breathing into the pain thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely a thing with pain especially. Is that sort of tension that it builds.
Yeah, it's like the resistance was more, the tension. It was like, actually, I just quickly looked up some resistance definitions because I always find that interesting. And in speaking about electricity, it is the measure of opposition against the flow of electrical current.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, you could quite easily put that straight into what I was talking about there, because it was like I was creating opposition to the flow of the pain. Therefore, it was worse.
That's very true. See, and I thought you wanted to do resistance because I'm so stubborn.
No, because I meet resistance all the time in my life.
Yeah.
And I don't meet it healthily.
Yeah.
So it made me think some more about resistance, and actually sort of wrote a bit about resistance just in that I was contemplating it. So obviously I've just thrown this topic on you 5 minutes before we started talking, but I'm hoping it's going to create a bit of flow with you too.
Well, no, it's interesting because when I think of resistance from a different aspect, or at least it feels like a different aspect, like resistance to doing something or changing something, which actually when you think about it is probably exactly the same thing.
Well, this is why it got me really thinking about resistance, because I'd never thought about the resistance to pain, defining it in that way, and that changed my perception of the pain.
Yes.
And I was able to deal with it in a whole different way. But I have met what you've spoken about, the resistance to change and resistance to that, a lot.
It's kind of, you get that resistance of the, I've always done it this way sort of resistance, or it's always been this way, and I don't want to change, and no, I'm quite happy where I am. Go on.
And then there's also that sort of, you resist because your subconscious, like we spoke about before, is saying, well, it's safe here in this known. And so if we resist that urge to do that, whatever it is, then we'll, I don't know, I've lost my train of thought. If we resist that urge to do that, then the subconscious say, this is where it's known, and that's unknown and unsafe.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a thing, and that this is known and that's unknown.
Yeah.
Like the subconscious does a lot to keep you where you are because it kind of knows how things are.
Yeah.
And it knows how safe you are there, or how much discomfort is there. And it will resist moving forward because it's the unknown. I
mean, the analogy that came up for me when I was writing about it was in resistance, you're paddling upstream.
Yeah.
So even though the flow is leading you that way, you are just paddling upstream and going against the opposition to the flow.
For whatever reason, you're going against it. Yeah.
And I really like that visualization in my mind of that's what's going on. But it's I think really when it comes down to it, we talk about fear and things, but it's actually the resistance to doing things that is the stop.
Yeah, resistance is the stop, although I feel like fear can be the trigger.
Well, fear is the reason or the trigger, and resistance is like the point where you tend to stop. And I think resisting is very, very uncomfortable and really quite painful.
It is, but it's that resistance because I don't know what might come if I didn't resist. And it's like with you, I'm resisting letting the pain flow because I'm worried about what might come next.
Yeah, worried about it being even worse because it was bad enough as it was.
That's it.
It was really interesting. The meditation, the idea was just to bring in peace.
Yeah.
And there was a whole sort of visualization and thing that you took you through, and it was really, really good. But the idea was to invite in the peace, and when you did that, because you weren't focusing on the pain and resisting it, that it flowed, and you didn't actually, the pain didn't get worse.
Yeah. Okay.
But how do you overcome resistance?
You have to realize you're being resistant.
But that's fine. I can realize I'm being resistant and still not do things.
That's true. But the first step is definitely to notice it.
Yeah.
Because I know I can be resistant of certain things and I don't really notice that I'm being stupidly resistant. Now, for me, quite often there'll be a point where I'm like, wait, hang on, why am I resisting this change or this
But I wouldn't call it stupidly. I'd never call it stupidly resistant. Because there's a reason behind it,
Well, usually what I do is I get to that point and I ask myself why I'm resisting.
Yeah.
I don't have a good enough reason.
To not.
I might as well just do it.
Yep.
If you can't come up with a good reason for resisting it, and I don't, I'm scared of what's coming next, isn't a good reason, in my opinion.
It's really interesting. Another point that I've come up with resistance is working with another healer. Mm-hmm. And certain like trapped emotions or certain things that he's helping me release, I'll be, I can feel myself resisting letting that go. Yeah.
That's because you get so used to that holding on to it. Mm-hmm. And that subconscious programming and, your trapped emotions and all that sort of thing, it's like you've got such a death lock on that. Mm-hmm. It's like kind of like the holding the balloon under the water.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know what? It would be much easier to let go of it, but there's something about it once you've got
just
that
like
grip.
It's like you've
locked. Got a death grip on it, and you ain't letting go.
I like that picture you've given me of that. Yeah, it is. It's just like it's locked in, and I don't actually know how to.
You're struggling to hold on to it.
But I don't know how to let go of that lock. Yeah.
That's it. I think it's because you're scared of what will happen when you let go of it and it rushes away from you.
Yeah, and anything you're resisting letting go of, quite often the thing you're struggling to let go of, you feel is a part of you.
Yeah.
But it's actually a part of you don't need. It's just been a part of your story till now.
Yes.
And really you would be a lot better off if you just let it go. Yep. But it's like you just feel like, well, if I don't have this, then who am I? What am I?
Yeah. That's a whole different thing when you start defining yourself by things like that.
But you can do. I think that's why it's harder to release.
And I think the holding on to things and resisting letting go of them, it's that safe space and it's that fear. I think especially with like trapped emotions and traumas and things like that, if you start letting go of it, because you've got it buttoned down so hard, you start letting go of it, well, there might be some more stuff to come before you're fully through it. So when you make the decision to release it, you need to be in a safe, supported place where you can release it.
Well, that's it. And I think something to think about when you're talking about emotions and traumas is if you don't ever look at them and deal with them in a safe, supported place, at some point, they're just going to explode up in your face. Probably just at a point where it's least wanted and, you know, just like just in a point where you're just not at all in a place where you can deal with it very well. Whereas actually starting to look at these things, that's the great thing with working with this healer, is actually working through and releasing all the things that actually have just been holding me back. Has been amazing experience for me. It doesn't always feel like it in the middle of it, but I'm still doing it in a very supported space. Yes. So it's all good. But I'm done with things blowing up in my face unexpectedly. That's not fun. No, it's not. Myself blowing up in myself's face.
Yeah, so there's definitely a good time to resist letting things go until it's a suitable time.
But I think as well, like the longer you resist, I think it's sometimes harder to reapproach.
Yeah.
It becomes easier to be in the state of resistance than it is to actually look at things. And
resistance can also be, you know, like getting stuck in a rut.
Oh, yeah.
And resisting getting out of the rut.
It really makes me think of the Tony Robbins thing. Was it Tony Robbins? It's that thing where, you know, when you get stuck and then at some point you just, like, something happens and you just make the decision. You think you've spoken about it before, you just make the decision. Nope, this is not happening like this anymore. I'm dealing with it. We're going. You know,
once you reach that point, it takes seconds to make the change.
It's a nice idea to think that perhaps you don't need to wait until the point where you're just like crushed under the resistance.
All you have to do is make the decision.
You just make the decision earlier, you know, actually start to understand what resistance feels like to you and when you are resisting. And, you know, I'd certainly, it's not an easy thing.
It's not an easy thing. And the more I think about it, I'm trying to think of things that I regularly resist. And I'm coming up short. Doing the dishes.
You don't really resist that. But yeah, I think sometimes it's like resisting taking the next step in your process and whatever you're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think you know what I'm talking about there.
No,
but
no idea.
Okay. But yeah, I think it is. It's like, I feel like you end up paddling backwards upstream. You know, it's just like you get so in the resistance way that you're going backwards.
Yeah, you can end up getting sort of that stationary, stagnant.
Yeah. Just all because you're resisting what is really the flow that is going to help you move forwards.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's interesting. It just makes me think of, you know, that forward motion, how you can lose forward motion. And really, we're always moving forwards, even when we're stationary. Yes. We're always moving.
We're always moving. But yeah, no, it's...
Because nothing's stationary.
It's an interesting concept, why we resist stuff. Although I think it does predominantly come down to fear.
Yeah. I think it's fear, and I think it's getting into the subconscious, which I think we're going to do a more in-depth talk about. We have done a bit about. It's so hard to realize that we're resisting something that's probably better for us as well.
Yeah, that's it. And like the subconscious, when it comes into the resistance, it's interesting because usually what ends up happening is not only will you be resisting something, but your subconscious will have created a small story for you just to reinforce that resistance. Yeah.
You're doing the right thing by not doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do...
But actually you're doing so much in the resistance that it's just it's draining.
Oh, yeah,
it's
completely
exhausting.
Yeah. But as long as your subconscious is telling you that story of, no, this is why you should be doing it, don't worry, then it's very hard to break out of it.
You're doing the right thing. And that is so hard to be take a different perspective, observe from above.
That's it.
What's going on.
And
then they talk about that as well, observing your thoughts instead of being your thoughts.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you observe, you realize that there's resistance coming in. But I don't know. I wouldn't know. It takes me a while to identify resistance.
Yes.
For a while, I'm not doing that. And then I'm like, why am I not doing that? Yeah. But it's not like that's not in a day. That can be weeks, months. And I'm like...
But when you get to that point of asking yourself why you're not doing it.
Yeah. Then you're going to...
I think usually after that, it's real easy to move forward. Because either there's a good reason, which is a valid, whatever it is, a valid reason.
Yeah, so that's fine. So then you just need to let go of the thing that you thought you were going to do that you're resisting doing.
Oh, no, wait, I'm not doing it because it wouldn't be the right thing to do at this time.
Yeah. And just put it to the side, there,
go
done.
To the side, maybe
finished.
at a later date.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you look at it and it's like, no, there's no good reason I'm not doing this. It was a bit like you with the getting invited to kickboxing.
Yeah.
I can't think of a good reason not to. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, that's it. And I think that's...
Because that was small resistance. You were resisting doing it.
I wanted to resist doing it, but I had no reason or excuse or anything come up as to why not to do it. So, I was like, well then. And I'm not one to make up. I don't want... let things flow as much as I can. So.
If there's a good reason, fair enough. If there's not a good reason, then... Yeah.
Other than I was a bit anxious about trying something new, but I don't let anxiety and that sort of those fears get in my way.
No.
I've learned to feel that fear and try to let it go a bit before, because there's a feel the fear and do it anyway or whatever it is. But you can actually feel the fear and let it go and do it. You don't have to do it anyway. You don't have to feel terrified as you're doing things. So I do work on that concept. But I won't let fear stop me. I mean, that's why we're in Canada.
Anxiety is a really funny type of fear too, because anxiety is a fear of something that might happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Stephen, it's also pre-programmed ideas about social situations, learning new things with people I don't know. Yep. 3 things that are quite a sort of triggering thing that you could imagine could make me feel quite anxious.
Yes.
And I hadn't even stepped into it yet, and I felt anxious about it. So I was already preempting feeling anxious, whereas that was just not needed.
No, it's interesting.
But yeah, I don't know. I just thought, I found it really interesting about the pain thing as well. I'd always thought about breathing into pain, and although in that I know how easy it is when you have severe pain to forget all the things that could help you.
Definitely.
Because in that moment you're just experiencing so much pain that you can't even think that there could be a way out or a way of feeling better.
Yes.
And I will always try to look to a way to heal the problem that's causing the pain.
Yeah.
Before I take painkillers.
But then, because sometimes I'll resist and suppress pain if it's not an appropriate time for me to be sore. Yeah. So if I'm in the middle of work and things are sore, I'd have to just keep going or whatever.
I think everyone does that.
Yeah. So it's that then stepping out from that afterwards and saying, okay, and you can let it go. Yeah.
But instead you can keep your body in that state of resisting the pain.
Yes.
And then,
Yeah.
Then you're getting into a lot of resistance, I suppose, to things. So.
Yeah, well, that's it. And then once becomes a habit of resisting it.
Something that I spoke about in it, because obviously I work a lot with energy flow, and something that I wrote about resistance was, if you resist, it's exactly like the measure of opposition to the flow. It's like if you're resisting your pain and stopping the flow of pain, you're probably as well, and it certainly felt like that, stopping the flow of the energy that would heal you.
Yes, your the pain body needs to flow out of your body. Before it can,
your body is designed to heal you. It's an amazing, I won't say system, but it's so much more than a system.
Yes.
And so it will always work to heal you, but your mind can get in the way of that by resisting the pain. And therefore, you don't let the energy, the healing energy, whatever needs to go into that, more blood flow, more oxygen. I don't know what exactly all those things, but for me, on an energetic point of view, just letting that healing energy flow into that area so it could actually get to work.
But it's even, like if you've got pain in your knee, say, and you're trying to resist it, you're probably tensing everything in your, and a lot of it needs to relax to then heal. Yeah.
Well, it's like inflammation and, things when they get into that inflamed state, them being tense is never going to let the blood flow into it and all that needs to go into it to actually help it heal.
I mean, that's why, a hot bath helps, because it relaxes your muscles.
Yeah. And that's why that meditation helped, because it was all about relaxing my body and coming into a state of peace instead of being in a state of resistance. Yeah. And it really helped. It really helped. It reduced it 50%, no doubt.
That's really good.
And obviously the hot bath that I had after was extremely helpful. But yeah, it's just really, it's really interesting to me how actually it's all interconnected. I just hadn't seen it thought about on that physical level before.
Yeah, no, I have to say I hadn't really thought about resistance in that aspect very much. I more thought about the sort of the resisting doing things, resisting change, resisting that sort of thing.
Knowing it's that the resisting change is really interesting. Knowing where you're at. And then knowing that you could feel better and be in a better way, but not doing anything towards that.
Yeah.
That's like huge resistance.
It is.
And that's fear, because change is scary.
Yeah.
Change is always scary. But the only thing that's constant is change.
Yep.
Because everything's always changing. Your whole body's always changing. These aren't the same cells we had yesterday.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like when you realize, when you get out of the mind and look from is this higher perspective of looking from things from a different perspective and understanding that all this change is always and already happening.
Yeah.
And our resistance isn't actually stopping it, it's just making it harder.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly
I don't think you even managed in resistance. I don't think you managed to stop things. I think all you managed to do is make it really hard to do the things that you're trying to stop.
Yeah. The things happen anyway.
Yeah.
Like life happens.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. And also, I suppose on that note, it's life happens anyway, and if you resist it, then the hard parts are just harder.
Yeah, like I said, it's just like you're just making it harder because it's happening. You can't stand still. You can never stop and stand still where you're at and think, well, that's it. I'm here. This is comfortable. This is great. There's always going to be something going on that's going to make you change.
It's the exact same thing as when we went to plough snow on our skidder we had for ploughing snow wouldn't start. And then we had to go and do this and go and do that and get a different machine. And then there were problems with that and this. And I was getting frustrated because it was a job that should have taken an hour. That took over half the day because we were faffing around with this and that and the next thing that wasn't working and just frustrate. Whereas you took the very healthy mindset of the, oh well.
It's quite unusual. It's usually the other way around. But I was quite proud of myself. Yeah. Honestly, it was. I've learned, because I do have a lot of things where it just feels like it's spinning out of control and it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Is always trying to look for the good things, the things I can be grateful for within that situation. Do I do it every single time? No, do I hell. But I am always striving to look for that, something that, so I said, well, you know what? At least we got to spend the morning together. We were having this struggle bus together.
That's true. Yeah. There you go.
And we had a nice walk together. It was all.
Yeah.
And you know what? We got a second skidder. We got it working. We got the snow plowed. So even better, it all got accomplished.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so, but I think like...
But it's definitely a form of resistance that was keeping me in that frustration level with it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, because then by the time we're finished, I mean, obviously you'd worked harder than me during the situation, but you were drained.
Yep.
And I wonder if you'd like switched
100%.
your,
if I'd just been, oh well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Then it would have been less.
Well, it's not even, oh well, it's fine. It's like, well, this is annoying, but at least it's sunny. We're spending time together, and we got, it's I think going, oh well, it's okay. It can be when you dismiss things in that way. I think you also aren't allowing yourself to feel what you really feel. I think sometimes you just go, well, yeah, this is frustrating as all everything, and I'm really annoyed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how I feel. Great, but you know what? This is not that bad because we have this and that, and just kind of turn it around.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah. That was just you resisting actually seeing.
I was resisting, and I was holding myself in that frustrated space.
And did it help you? No.
No comment.
Well, it's like that thing, when they say when you don't forgive yourself, forgiveness is very helpful. It's that whole thing, being angry at someone only hurts you.
Yes.
But
it was that stupid thing that, like, I think I wanted to be frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, because it made you feel better, but it didn't.
No.
It made the whole experience actually a little bit miserable for me, who was like, at least we're spending time together.
Yeah.
You're looking at me like, oh my God, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is just my ideal day of spending time with you. This constant frustration. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite often. Although I have been improving with that. Sort of looking for the positive outlook, and I know for some people it can be quite annoying with people like, well, at least it's not like that. When you're in that state of frustration, you're like, go away, I want to be like this. Yeah. Let me have my anger.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. Have it and let it go. Stop holding on to it, resisting feeling better. Yeah, resistance to feeling better. Because that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, but when you say it like that, it sounds so stupid.
It really does. It really does. But it's easy to do. So easy to do. You get stuck in your... I can't think of the analogy. Stuck in your rut.
Yeah.
You get stuck in your rut. And
I'm staying in my rut.
And I'm staying in my rut, and I don't want to get out of my rut. This is where I want to be, because I'm miserable, And that's resisting.
And sometimes I want to be miserable.
Yeah. But it's like... In everything with this, I think it's always so important to honor how you feel. And so, yeah, you're frustrated. And I think you have to say, well, yeah, I'm really frustrated, and be frustrated. And then don't sit in that forever. At some point, you've got to go, okay, let's move beyond.
Yeah.
And I think, sometimes there's a bit of this rush for everyone to, you can't feel, frustrated or angry. You just, you need to feel the good emotions.
Yes.
There's
people definitely get to the way of the, like, no, everything's got to be rainbows and sunshine.
And I think in doing that, you don't honour how you actually feel about something. And then, that anger and frustration will come up randomly in the most weirdest way.
Yeah. It's actually
because you haven't let it go, you've just suppressed it to feel better.
It's one of the things I hate about the sort of self-help type thing is you get a lot of them that are people telling their story, and it seems like, oh no, nothing ever rocks my... I never get frustrated. I never get... Nope, I am...
We know for me that's extremely not true, and I don't hide it because I think... Really, everyone has to experience every type of emotion, because that's part of being human.
Everyone gets frustrated sometimes.
What's important is not to get stuck in one emotion and resist moving out of it.
Exactly.
And there's so much more to that, so much more complexities to emotions and being stuck in them, and the way you feel, and then moving into the feeling good. But like I said, I think, I wasn't trying to change your state in any way. For me, I was annoyed too, but I was just like, oh, well.
Yep.
I wasn't annoyed as you, and I know it was very triggering to you, but I was just like, and it's just now a common concept for me, is just when I'm starting to feel a bit like shaken because things aren't working out, is be like, well, what can I be grateful for here?
Because you definitely made me aware, indirectly, of the fact that I was holding myself in a stubborn place. In a stubborn place? No, in a frustrated place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was being stubborn about it. But, you being sort of, well, this is how it's happening, but whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't how we wanted it to happen, but this is the way it's happening,
It definitely made me very aware of the fact that I was holding on to the frustration.
Because it never happens that way around. It's usually you helping me. I'm surprised you didn't just fall over in the snow like, oh my God!
Fall over the snow and keep
I'm learning and growing, and I'm proud of myself.
You're doing awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll call it there, and we've got some ideas for other topics coming up, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.